leaden-eyed despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes, or new love pineth beyond tomorrow. Look at how amazing this stanza is. He's seeking to get away from his pain, like we all do when we're depressed and when we're sad and when we're facing a tragedy. And he thinks about the nightingale. And he says, I want to go away with the nightingale, dissolve and forget what thou, nightingale, amongst the leaves hast never known. And here he brings in that wonderful, incredible paradox of human consciousness. Human consciousness is our blessing and our curse. See, the bird doesn't have human consciousness. It's got bird consciousness, whatever that is. And he realizes, Keats, the poet, the speaker, realizes that the bird has not ever known weariness and fever and fret. The speaker talks about the fact that on Earth, away from the world of the birds, we sit and hear each other groan. Look what it means to be human. You got two choices. Palsy will shake a few sad last gray hairs. We'll die in the autumn of our life, okay? We'll die, in this sad sort of state. Or we'll die young, spectre thin, growing pale. And of course he's thinking, I'm pretty sure Keats, the author, has the persona in the poem, think of Keats' brother Tom, who's died the previous December. And so he starts connecting this whole idea that beauty is not going to last. Beauty is transitory. New love cannot pine beyond tomorrow. And so we've got this very bittersweet concept of what it means to be human. Now, in stanza 4, we're going to see Keats coming up with some sort of an answer. It's pretty depressing so far in this poem, but now it's stanza 4. We're going to find Keats finding at least a bit of comfort that he's going to have to work out. So first of all, he says, away, away, for I will fly to thee, not charioted by Bacchus and his tards, but on the viewless wings of poesy. Though the dull brain perplexes and retards, already with thee tender is the night. And haply the queen moon is on her throne, clustered around by all her starry fays. But here there is no light, save what from heaven is with the breezes blown, through verdurous glooms, winding mossy ways. All right, now, he's going to reject what he first suggested in the previous stanza. He's going to reject drinking himself under the table. He's going to reject drunkenness. And he's going to find a better answer. He says, away, away, I will fly to thee. Talking about the bird. Not charioted by Bacchus and his pards, but on the viewless wings of poesy. And the viewless wings of poesy, as poet taught, were poetry. Now we're going to look at poetry in a really broad spectrum. Poetry can be music, poetry can be art, it can be dance, it can be sport, okay? The whole idea of getting out of one's sorrow through art is a really important concept in the poetry of Keats. You'll see it again in Ode on a Grecian Urn. Now, what Keats says here is that he's going to reject drunkenness. And I love the way he says this. Not charioted by Bacchus and his pards, but on the viewless wings of poesy. And this is a cool image. In mythology, apparently Bacchus, you know, the god of wine, he was charioted about, pulled in this big old chariot, pulled by 4 black leopards. That's a pretty impressive sight. Can't you see Bacchus going from frat house to frat house to frat house, you know, pulled in this chariot? Well, anyway, Keats rejects that. He says it's not going to be drunkenness that takes him out of his sadness. And so he starts giving us imagery, not only of poetry, but imagery of nature. And he talks about, here there is no light, save what from heaven is with breezes blown. And he talks about, begins to talk about how tender is the night. And perhaps you remember that line. It's the title of a novel by Scott Fitzgerald, which of course is taken from Keats' poem. Now, in the next stanza, Keats is going to continue with that whole idea of finding comfort in nature. Now remember, he's sitting here in the garden, and you know, his trees are still standing, unlike my tree. And he's talking about what he smells and what he feels. And he says, I cannot see what flowers are at my feet, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs. But in embalmment darkness guess each sweet, where with seasonable month endows the grass, the thicket, and the fruit tree wild, white hawthorn and the pastoral eglantine, fast-fading violets covered up in leaves, and mid-May's eldest child, the coming musk rose full of dewy wine, the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves. Look what he's talking about. He's talking about nature. Look at the examples he gives us. The grass, the thicket, the fruit tree, the white hawthorn, the eglantine, the violets, the coming musk rose, full of dewy wine. And so he uses that synesthesia, another literary technique for those of us who keep in track, where you sort of, he gets two senses at once. You sort of smell the flowers, and you have that sort of image of wine. You hear the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves. Now, in the next stanza, stanza 6, he sort of goes back, and even though he's just told us that he's going to get out of his pain through poesy, I guess he sort of thinks back to how bad things were. This is an incredibly powerful stanza. He says, darkling I listen, and for many a time I've been half in love with easeful death, calling soft names in many a mused rhyme, to take into the air my quiet breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die, to cease upon the midnight with no pain. Well, thou art pouring forth thy soul abroad in such an ecstasy? Still, Nightingale, wouldst thou sing, and I have ears in vain, to thy high requiem become a song. All right, now look how serious this poem is. Look what Keats is saying here. He says, for many a time I've been half in love with easeful death, called him, death, soft names, and many a mused rhyme, to take into the air my quiet breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die. He's talking about suicide. He has been in such pain that he's considered taking his own life. You cannot get more serious than this. This poem is a poem that I hope you never need. I hope you never need to come back to this poem for some emotional answer. I hope this poem always remains a wonderful sort of intellectual kind of exercise and an emotional kind of poem that maybe you don't really need. But if you ever find yourself in a position where things are really, really so sad, so tough for you, that you really can't find an answer, come back and read this stanza and look what Keats does. Keats gives you an answer to ultimate questions. He is so sad that he's thinking about killing himself, but he doesn't. He finds an answer. He finds his way out of the most ultimate trouble that can possibly happen. I think that's the Nightingale. Look, the Nightingale playing tricks on me. Anyway, well, that's kind of good that we had a little levity here when I'm talking about this sad stanza. That comic relief that Shakespeare uses, because this stanza is really, really sad. It's really, really powerful at the very beginning when he's talking about thinking about killing himself. But look what happens. It's going to change, thank goodness, in the next part of the stanza. He hears the nightingale, and he wonders. He says, well, if I kill myself, what will happen? He says, I will become a sod. I'll be under the sod. I'll have ears in vain. I won't hear your song. And so he recognizes that he must stay alive, that he must go on, because there are reasons to stay alive. And in the next stanza, he shows us some more of these positive images here. He talks about the bird, and look at this very beginning line, this resoundingly positive kind of idea. Thou wast not born for death, immortal bird. You know how those poets are, they're always